excited to have Jennifer Reed here and joining us from the suggestion box, navigating feedback, the good, the bad, and the say what? So I want to tell you a little bit about my girl, Jennifer. She is the mother of a little girl, a wife for the second time, and a caregiver to her Navy veteran husband, listed as top 50 mom podcasters in Podcast Magazine in May 2020. Yes, ma'am. A current 2020 Elizabeth Dole Fellow for the state of Arkansas. She wants to be a woman who sheds light on women and moms going through different seasons of life and making the normal struggles we all go through normal and not something to be ashamed of or embarrassed about, aka hot mess mama life. She's also a big supporter of childhood ADHD, domestic violence survivors, and caregivers for veterans. So Jennifer, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. That was a mouthful. I'm so sorry. I apologize, but yes.
No, that's phenomenal. Not a mouthful at all. So talking about this, right, we are all getting feedback throughout the day. You know, sometimes we're getting it from our kids, we're getting it from our husbands, our significant others, our parents, the people who we work for, the people who we work with. Like, we are constantly just getting feedback. And sometimes it can be a little harsh. Sometimes it can be nice and constructive. And sometimes, you know, you get that feedback where you're just looking at people like,
yes.
like
you're talking
what?
to me? Like,
yeah, like, right. Are you talking, like, what? Like,
yeah.
Okay. So the whole point of this is really just to encourage people, right? So tell us a little bit about your professional background to start with. And so, yeah, let's start there and then we'll kind of transition from there.
Well, I have a lot of professions, as you just listed off. Right now, I'm actually the 2020 Elizabeth Dole Fellow caregiver for the state of Arkansas. That's my main job right now, and also being the host of the podcast Mom to Wife Less Life. So there's a lot of feedback that comes back with that. Yes. So those are my two current professions right now. Both of them are going great. It's new territory for both of them, especially the fellowship, just because I'm the only one for the whole entire state. So that's a lot of pressure. And, you know, you're basically under a microscope and you have to word things correctly. So like this whole like slip up thing that I normally do on a podcast, I have to like train myself out of that. It's a lot. I love it, but it's a lot. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so let's talk about being a podcast host. What is the best feedback that you've received?
It was actually like a week ago. So I was kind of feeling down because I was like, I don't know where I want my podcast to go. I have all these ideas and, you know, I know the general census of what I want it to be, but I just don't know what direction to take it in. And I was recording an episode with a future guest that's going to be on. And we were talking about similar to this, and she was just like, why do you feel this way? Why do you feel like you don't know where to go? Just play around with it and you know, get the feedback and then go with that. And I was like, yeah, but you know, everybody's in a different season, different aspects of life. Like, how do you judge on what someone else is saying to what you have in your head? So basically she was just like, well, you know, what feels good to you in your heart? Like, is it something you're passionate about? Then do it. If you don't feel good about it, then don't do it. And it was just that simple. And yeah, it was just a light bulb just went off in my head. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it back to the basics. I'm going to do what I intend to do with this podcast and take it back to where I started off at.
Awesome. Beautiful. That encouragement, that dose of encouragement is a lot of times just what one needs in order to keep pushing forward. So let's take it to the other extreme. What is the worst feedback that you've ever received?
So I've kind of gotten over it now, but the worst feedback that I've ever received was that I have a horrible voice. Yes. Yes. I have a horrible voice. I stutter too much. I lose my train of thought and I can't focus, and I should not be a podcaster.
But yet you're like listed as one of the top 50 for mom podcasters for 2020. Okay, so when you got that, and you see that's where that whole say what comes from, because it's like, how does somebody even form their mouth to say something like that? I don't get it. It surprises me so much. Thus, that's why we're talking. So when you got that, how did you move forward? How did you move beyond it? And then when you were also, made it into the top 50, were you like, oh, I shouldn't be podcasting, huh? No, I'm sorry. But how did you move past that?
So it was soul crushing. I'm not gonna lie. Like that day I saw the comment, I was like, oh, okay, well, this hurts. It hurt my ego. It hurt my soul. But then I just started looking at all the other positive ones, and that kind of just like lifted me back up a little bit. Sounds really cliche, but it's the truth. I had to like cry, get it out of my system, and then kind of self-talk myself and be like, hey, I'm good. And then I got that top 50, and I was like, well, apparently I'm not so bad. Right. Yes. All the positive comments outweighed that one negative. I think that person was just like, this podcast is not for me, so I'm just going to say whatever I think. But, we all think that somewhat. Not going to lie. We all think that when we're listening to somebody, like, oh my God, how did they make it? Or like, we have that like quick past judgment. But, it's one thing to say it out loud, and then to actually tell someone what you're feeling and saying it, because that hurts. That really does.
Yeah. So with that feedback, do you think that any of it, like, were you able to use any of it? Meaning, okay, so maybe they said these things. Did any of it make you like look back and it's like, okay, well, maybe I can improve like on how my diction is, or maybe I can make little improvements. So not so much to where it's like, you suck, but maybe that encouraged you to step up your game a little bit in some way?
Oh yeah. So now I have bullet points so I can stay on topic and keep it flowing. Because I did go back and listen, and I was like, oh yeah, I was totally talking about this, and then I went to this, and then I was like a squirrel. So
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, I made bullet points. Tell at the end of my messages on my podcast, I'm like, I'm a hot mess. Like, this is what you get. This is real life. This is what this is. This is what this podcast is. So there you go.
Awesome. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. And I love the fact that you said that you admitted that it hurt and you owned that, because I feel like a lot of times people will get stuff that hurts and they just like sweep it under the rug and they don't deal with it. And then that ends up building up. But if you allow yourself to hurt, like, it's okay, but then really taking a look at it. And I love the fact that you went back and you're like, okay, well, let me just see. And you were able to make it constructive as opposed to hurtful, and take that and use it as something to build you up, to take you to the next level. And now look, you're one of the top 50 mom podcasts. So thank you, listener, whoever that was. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
exactly, right? So let me see. Let's flip the switch, or flip the script rather.
Right. Okay.
Has there ever been a piece of feedback that you've given to somebody that you were like, oh my gosh, why did I say it like that?
All the time.
I was gonna say I do it to my kid all the time, and I have to work on it. She's my guinea pig, and I'm so sorry. So sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. It's the same thing with my kid. I think that's the best example I could use, because I'm professional at work, so I kind of hold my tongue a lot, and I'm just like, if I need to say it, I will say it, but I will do it in a professional manner. So I haven't really done that, but at home, it's a whole different story. I do. I do, like, 'cause there's no filter. Like, I'm just like filter off by, um, but I do have to work on that because, I don't want her to take what I say and how I say it at home into the
Right,
world, and then she
right,
doesn't have that professionalism either.
right,
So,
right.
yeah, I've done it a lot. I think I did it this morning, but yeah.
I like 10 minutes ago when this chick kept blowing up my phone. I'm like, look, I'm trying to work here, homie. Like, let's get this together. Okay.
Right.
Very, very cool. Okay. So let me ask you this. Have you ever managed a team of people before?
Um, a small team, not like a large team, like maybe 5 or 6 people, like a mini team if you want to call it that. But yeah, I have. It's frustrating.
So in that frustration, how were you able to, I'm going to ask both, right? How were you able to give them the feedback that they needed and hopefully, in a way that got them to respond? And maybe coming from your team, was there feedback that you received in terms of how you were as a boss, and like, did it sting, and like, what did you do about it?
Well, let's just say this Jennifer and boss Jennifer are two different people.
Can
Boss
imagine.
Jennifer, boss Jennifer is more of, hey, do this, do that, so that way we can get out of here earlier and we don't have to do this anymore.
Right,
Um,
right,
like, so there's no slacking off. There's no none of that. Just do it.
right. Just
And
get it done. Get her done.
yeah, regular Jennifer's more like, hey, you guys, we need to get this done. I know, like the more, but yeah, when I did manage my team, it was a lot of, I had to do a schedule of like who was going to go where. It was a volunteer kind of team thing.
Okay, that's perfect, because that's who we're talking to. Volunteer managers, managing volunteers.
Yeah.
So we're gonna understand. Yes, ma'am. Tell us.
So it was hard because I had to make a schedule of where they were going to go, what they were going to do, the activities that they were going to do, because it was a camp counselor type of thing, and I had a team underneath me. And oh God, it just takes me back. But I remember there was this one employee that just, or should I say, yeah, employee. Let's just say that. One person who was just like such a slacker, didn't want to do anything. Basically was like, here, kids, lay out the toys. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna chill, sit back. And I was like, you have to engage. You have to talk to them, because guess what? Their parents, they're gonna tell their parents what happened, and then it's gonna come back to me, and then it's gonna go up, and then it's gonna go. Can you just like pretend for like 10 minutes? But no, I really had to get down to the gritty with him, and I'm just like, hey, I need you to do this, and if you don't do it the next day, then I'm gonna have to say something to the person above me, because I can't have you on my team anymore.
Yeah.
It's you're here to basically play with kids and have fun all day. You're getting paid to do that. Like, ooh, why are you being lazy for?
Yeah.
So I don't understand, but yeah.
So how did it work out?
Oh, well, I mean, he got in trouble eventually.
Oh,
Because I just kind of got sick of it. I really did. I really kind of got sick of it. It was just, it was to the point where, like, the kids' safety was at play,
yeah.
and parents were like, hey, well, I don't understand why I'm paying all this money to have my kid here, and if you guys are not going to interact with them.
Right.
So I had to say something. I did it professionally, though, but
I was
yes,
like a little concerned. I was like, Jennifer, were you like, yo, you need to get it? I was like, how did it get
no,
her?
that's
So give us a few tips, right? So when you had to have the conversation with that person, like, how did you go? How did professional Jennifer do it?
professional Jennifer had little slips ups, but it's okay. She basically was like, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, and I need it done in a timely manner. And if you don't do that, then there are going to be consequences. And, eventually you say it polite and nice the first couple times. And then afterwards, you kind of put some oomph into your voice, and you're like, hey, I really need you to get this done.
So then, like, you took it to your boss and let your boss handle it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, I was removing myself, because after that,
you're like, let's not be professional Jennifer anymore.
No.
They were going to get JJ. They were going to get Yo. They were getting Jen.
Yes. They're going to get Jenny from the block. Okay. Like, no.
Oh
No.
my gosh, that is hilarious. Okay, so, well, what I want to do then, tell us a little bit about your podcast and how people can learn more about who you are, what you do, get in touch with you, all of that goodness right in there.
Okay. So my podcast is called Mom to Life Plus Life, and it is all about empowering women and basically embracing the normal everyday struggles of motherhood, wifelyhood, and just life. And it's fun. It's a fun podcast to listen to. We dive into a whole bunch of different topics, and we have different professionals come on, like you yourself have been on, and we dive into different people's backgrounds. So everybody has a little piece that they can relate to the podcast. It's not just one thing fits all. It's pretty much, you dive into whatever episode you need to dive into to get whatever you need to get out of there. I've had psychic cheerleaders come on. I've had, life coaches, holistic coaches. I've had, doctors, divorce attorneys, all those things come on. So whatever you're going through, there's something for you on the podcast.
Ah, beautiful, 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 beautiful. So,
Yes.
how can they find your podcast?
So I'm actually available on 11 different platforms. We just got released onto iHeartRadio about a month ago.
Congratulations!
So I'm on iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and not Android, but Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anything you can think of podcast platform, I'm pretty much on there. You just have to type it in there, and it'll take you straight there.
Perfect. So what I can do is I can put a couple of links down wherever this is going to be housed, and that people can click on the link and find you and go from there. So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What was or has been, and this could be personally, professionally, however you want to go, one of your greatest challenges that you have overcome that you're extremely proud of?
Oh my gosh.
That's kind of, I have so many. Let me
It's
see.
a loaded question though. It really is. So if you guys don't know and can't tell, I'm a very shy person.
No, shy? No, I would have
Yes.
never.
So that's one thing I've had to really overcome, is just being like, not so shy. And I've always said I've always been more of the behind the scenes person, not in front of the scenes.
Yep.
Even though if you look at like astrological signs and all that, I should be like, woo, life of the party, but that's not me. So that's one thing I really had to overcome, and just like voicing what I feel is right, which I've done in a lot of jobs. And, they hire one person, and then once you're hired, they get a whole different person, and they're like, what is this? You were supposed to be this shy, sweet, nice girl, and here you are voicing your opinions. That's not okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to overcome that and deal with that. But, I can say honestly, now I go into job interviews more assertive and more like willing to say, hey, this is what I want. This is what I want to talk about. Even with this fellowship, meeting with all like the VA people and directors, senators, mayors, all those things. I'm like, hey, if you guys want to use the name, you guys can, but we're going to do it this way.
Yes.
Not X, Y, and Z that way. But yeah, it's been fun learning what I can and can't get away with. But yeah.
That is fantastic. Well, Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you all got something out of this and learned something. I know I did. I know this chick is a boss, and just very excited to learn about everything that you're doing and seeing the progression that you're doing and all the awards that you're getting. And I'm so proud of you and just so excited. And thank you for sharing that feedback with us. And hopefully other people learn from it too. So I just want to say, I hope you all tune back in to our next episode of From the Suggestion Box, Navigating Feedback, the good, the bad, and the say what. See you next time.